Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3897A, and today's date is May 4th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Central Bank Panics. They admit that Trump is destroying their system and creating a new one. Now, here's what your financial advisors won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting. I get it. Everybody's waiting. Waiting to see if the ceasefire holds, waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens, waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear, on instability, on the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantage IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit X22Gold.com for your free investor kit. 5 minutes today could protect decades of seconds. That is X22Gold.com. Don't be the one still waiting, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see they are now panicking like we've never seen before. And they're also admitting that Trump is basically decentralizing their centralization. And that's what the central bank is. It's called the central bank for a reason. They like to centralize everything. And yes, they get corporations involved in helping them centralize everything. They centralize everything in the government. And now you could see what Trump is doing. He's decentralizing everything that they have set up to maintain control over the prices, to maintain control over the creation of currency, to maintain control over energy. And Trump is out in the Middle East decentralizing the oil. He's here in the United States decentralizing the system that they set up. And every step of the way, you can see the central bankers, they're panicking like we've never seen before. Carney actually came out and admitted that Trump is destroying their globalist system, and he's trying to create a new one. And they don't know how to stop it because it can't be stopped. Because once again, they do not have the leverage. Trump has the leverage. And think about it. As we go through this entire process of decentralizing everything that they centralized, we're going to feel some pain. Now, I think Trump, the Patriots, they knew this from the very, very beginning. And when Biden/Obama was in the White House, and remember, they cheated in the election. I do believe Trump was the commander-in-chief at the time, but he needed to show the people their true agenda. He knew that they were going to make the economy very, very bad. He knew that they were going to increase inflation. He knew that they were going to increase oil prices. They were going to usher in the Green New Scam, that they were going to bring in the illegals into this country, and that was going to raise prices and actually reduce wages. All of this was set up for what he needed to do, because what he needed to do was he needed to dismantle everything they put in place. And while you're dismantling the old system, yes, you're going to go through a transition. Yes, you're going to see that the prices are going to go up. Fuel prices are going to go up because, again, you're removing us from the old system. But again, it's not going to get as bad as it was under Biden. So this way, the optics look good. I mean, if we go back a little bit in time and we look at the economy under Biden for the time that he was in the White House, overall inflation was up 20.1%. Think about that for a second. Inflation was up 20.1%. Home prices were up 35.3%. Mortgage rates were up 148%. Gas prices were up 46%. Food prices were up 21.5%. And think about how the fake news tried to cover for all of this. And now the Democrats are complaining that Trump has inflation around 2.5%, 3%. That fuel prices went up a little bit, not as much as Biden. They're trying to make it seem like Trump is ruining the economy. But when people actually look at the economy and you go back in time, you can see the truth of the matter. You can see that Biden had it a lot worse. And like we said from the very, very beginning, Trump is now decentralizing everything that they set up. And you have to remember, they centralize pretty much everything. When you look at the fraud across the country, when you look at the energy system, when you look at the food system, when you look at education, everything has been centralized. So what does Trump have to do? He has to break it all down. He has to expose it. And that's exactly what they're doing. Eric Doherty put this out and said, Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins reveals foreign companies have been caught manipulating the American meat market. The Trump admin is now cracking down on them to lower prices and stop the collusion. Half of these meat packing giants, including the largest meat packer in the world, are either foreign-owned or have significant foreign ownership and control, making them a threat not just to our cattle producers, but a threat to America itself. And as time has gone on, it becomes more and more clear that the food security is truly national security. The brutal reality is that such foreign ownership of meat packers has been affiliated not just with corruption, but also cartels. And as recent as last week's slave labor, which is bad enough on its own, but it's also to the detriment of America's great independent ranchers and consumers. Further, when just 4 firms control the market, suppliers and food prices are rocked heavily when disruptions occur. Trump is accurately aware of these challenges as evidenced by his true social directive last November, directing the Department of Justice to investigate the big 4 meatpackers for potential collusion and price manipulation. Ensuring these practices do not happen will protect both producers and consumers. So the 4 companies are JBS, Cargill, Tyson Foods, and National Beef, control roughly about 85% of the cattle processing market. That level of concentration has surged from just 25% in 77 to 71% in 92, and now to an astonishing 85%. Together, these companies operate through dozens of subsidiary businesses, creating a landscape that leaves many of our cattle producers with limited market options. For some ranchers, this means less marketing opportunities, complicating an already challenging marketplace. We must work to address this to protect our ranchers and consumers. Trump and his administration are focused on promoting fairness and competition. So basically, you could see there was pretty much a monopoly on the meat packing process. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a monopoly on other parts of the food industry, the medical industry. You name it, there's a monopoly because, again, they had to centralize everything. They needed to control it all. So Trump now is going to make things a lot more affordable. He's going to break all of this up and shut it all down, which means meat prices are going to come way, way down. Energy prices are going to come way, way down. It's all happening. You know what's going to go up? Wages. You know what else is going to go up? Factory orders. And that's what we're seeing right now. Headline factory orders rose by 1.5% month on month in March, dramatically better than the 0.6% month on month expected. And this is the best since November. February's data was also revised higher. Overall orders were only up 2.1% year on year, the lowest since July 2025. Now, here's what your financial advisors won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting. I get it. Everybody's waiting. Waiting to see if the ceasefire holds, waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens, waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear, on instability, on the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantage IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit X22Gold.com for your free investor kit. 5 minutes today could protect decades of seconds. That is X22Gold.com. Don't be the one still waiting, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. So core factory orders surge 1.6% month on month and up for the 5th straight month. So basically, as the factories are being built, as the data centers are being built, we're going to see more and more goods produced here in the United States, and we're going to see factory orders start to go up. And that's what we're going to see. And you know what's going to come down? We're going to start to see gasoline start to come down because, again, Trump and team, what are they doing? They're placing a lot of pressure on the deep state players, on the central bank out in the Middle East to decentralize the flow of energy. Trump War Room put this out and said, Secretary Scott Bessent, the stock market is looking through this. Corporate earnings are good. Employment is good. And this gasoline, this temporary aberration, will be over in a matter of weeks or months. And you're going to see all of a sudden the fuel prices start to drop. And as the fuel prices start to drop, that is going to affect the inflation that we see in this country, which means inflation is going to drop. And I do believe that the fuel prices are going to pretty much snap back to where they were before Trump went into Iran to decentralize the entire system. And from that point on, I do believe what's going to happen is we're going to see oil prices continually drop. Remember, United Arab Emirates, yes, I know a drone hit them today, but of course, they made the announcement they're leaving OPEC. And of course, that's what was hit because they're trying to keep the fear up. And remember, fear is driving the prices in the market. It's not supply and demand. So basically, this is how they control the oil across the globe. And actually, it kind of proves it because, again, when you hear a drone hit the UAE oil production, all of a sudden prices went up. When Trump announces that he's going to allow the ships to go in and out of the strait and the U.S. Navy is going to protect them, you're going to see prices come down. So, yes, is the deep state central bankers working against Trump, trying to keep the prices up? Of course they are. That's their entire mission. And Trump knows that the oil prices are controlled by a central location. It's controlled by fear. It's controlled by news. And this is what he's breaking right now, just like he breaking up the entire meat packaging monopoly. So basically, you could see that Trump now is decentralizing everything. And it looks like Europe, Canada, those individuals that are part of the central bank system, they actually are letting everyone know that they're worried. They're worried that Trump now is destroying their old system and he's ushering in a new system. And they're trying to figure out a way to shut all of this down. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, remember, he was a central banker. The world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions in technology and in energy, in commerce and geopolitics. Integration is being used as a weapon by some, and the rules are not constraining the hegemons. Mark Carney is complaining that the old rule-based international order, globalization, is collapsing. So the world is undergoing a rupture across several dimensions in technology and energy and in commerce and geopolitics. The global system is breaking apart in big ways. AI tech wars, energy supply shocks, transition fights, trade disruptions, and shifting power between countries. Integration is being used as a weapon by some. Integration equals globalization and economic interdependence, supply chain trade deals, shared markets. He says some powerful players are now weaponizing that interdependence. Well, who do you think that is? Oh, that's Trump in the United States. Trump is using tariffs, export bans, sanctions, or cutting off access to markets, tech, to pressure or punish others. And when he used the word hegemons, which equals dominant power, the old rules, the World Trade Organization, international agreements, rule-based order, no longer restrain the dominant powers. Who do you think he's talking about? The U.S.? Maybe China, but I think it's the U.S. So basically, everything the central bankers put into place, which was the World Trade Organization, their international agreements, their rule-based order, it's no longer restraining Trump. And they have no control over what Trump is doing. So basically, Trump is breaking free from their system. So powerful countries right now are prioritizing their own sovereignty, security, and citizens over the old system. Canada, Mark Carney, wants to double down on alliances with Europe to counter this rupture rather than adapt to a more nationalist, transactional world. Translation, Trump is destroying their old system, their old centralized system where they had control using the institutions that they put into place. He is now decentralizing the entire world. And the deep state, the central bankers, they do not know how to stop this. Now, one way of doing that, which I do believe they'll try to do, is probably with a cyber attack. Remember, they don't care if they destroy the old system. They don't care if it's brought down. They were going to do this no matter what. If Trump was in power or you wasn't in power, they were always planning on destroying their old system to bring us into their new system. This is why during 2020, they released COVID. Yes, one of the reasons was to make sure they were able to win the election, but the other reason was to bring the entire system down, of course, reduce the population, make people sick and things like that. But again, they were going to bring down the entire system. And you have to remember, if you go back a little bit in time, the New York Times said that the pandemic would last 10 years. So if the economy was shut down for 10 years, what do you think was going to happen? The entire system was going to implode. So the central bankers don't care if the system comes down. They don't care if they destroy it. And this is what leads me into what they might try, because as they're losing control over the system, which they just admitted, and Trump is building this new parallel economic system, which they just admitted because he's not following anything they're doing. The institutions that they set up can't control him. They're going to try to do something because this is the only thing that they have left. The only thing they have is to try to destroy their old system, where that hopefully destroys what Trump is doing. But again, if Trump is building a new parallel economic system, all they're going to end up doing is destroying their system. And Trump and the Patriots, I think he knows this. And this is why he worked so quickly on creating the new system, because he knew eventually the central bankers would have no choice but to try to destroy their old system. Now, again, what are they going to do this? Are they going to do it this year? I don't think so. Will they do it maybe after the midterms to see where things lay and see if they can get back into power? I do believe so. And I do believe anywhere from the midterms to the end of Trump's presidency, probably to the end of the presidency, this is when they'll make their final move. And I do believe this is what they're going to try. But in the end, at that point in time, Trump's system will be completely online. It will be very powerful. It will overshadow the central bank system. A lot of the manufacturers, the building of their plants will be already in process. Some of them will already be finished. So whatever they're going to do, I do believe in the end is going to fail big time. Plus, when Trump and the people of this country have control of the House and Senate, this is going to make it very, very difficult for them. So the only thing that they're going to do in the end is actually end up destroying their old system. Now, I do believe Trump and the Patriots, I do believe they're leading them down this path. Because again, in the end, Trump is going to have to transition from the old system to the new system eventually. And I think the deep state, the central bankers, are just going to make it that much easier for him to do it. And with control of the House and Senate, it's going to make it that much easier to implement the things that he needs moving forward. Because what better way to implement something than when you have an event, when people are afraid, when people are nervous? This is what the central bank, the deep state players have used against we the people this entire time. Now, Trump is going to turn this all around and use it against them. And when everyone's afraid and everyone's scared and everyone's saying, oh, look, the whole system's falling apart, what do you think Trump is going to do? Is he going to say, hey, you know what? Let's look at the gold that we have. Let's revalue the gold that we have. Let's change everything. And what is gold going to do? Because I do believe Trump is going to show the world that we have a lot more gold than I think people believe. And what's going to happen when we revalue the gold from $42 an ounce to whatever it is at the present time? Maybe it's at 6,000, maybe it's at 10,000, maybe it's at 12,000. Is this going to build confidence in the system? Absolutely. What happens when he says, okay, we're going to use stablecoin to back the current currency right now, and we'll be shifting over to a sound money system where maybe it's backed by stablecoin and we also have gold? Is this going to build confidence in the system? I do believe so. So when you start to think about all this and you start to see where this is all headed, you could see that Trump, he has the upper hand. You can see the central bankers, they're panicking. Their old rules system doesn't work anymore. Trump is breaking free from all of it. And soon we're going to be heading into the new system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.